Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Astrology News Report, an alternate view of world events as seen through the lens of Vedic astrology, presented by yours truly, Ron Berger. Today is February 1st, 2015. So let's take a look at the week that was and how the planets' positions in the zodiac matched up with the past week's events. The combination of Uranus and Ketu tends to produce crisis. One form this took last week was the proposed exchange of a Jordanian fighter pilot and a Japanese journalist captured by ISIS for a female suicide bomber held by Jordan. The delicate and often confusing negotiations proceeded all week, with the Jordanians demanding proof that their pilot was still alive before making the trade. Mercury, the planet of communications, is retrograde. Venus, the planet of negotiations, is conjunct Neptune, the planet of suspicion and doubt. And the square aspect of Saturn to Venus puts more pressure on the planet of negotiations. Jupiter, the planet of wisdom and conciliation, also retrograde, backwards in the heavens. On Sunday, it became clear that the journalist had been killed. The planetary arrangement doesn't change much this coming week, and so the energy for crisis and confusion will likely continue. Moving over to the events in the United States, this past weekend was, of course, the high holy days for U.S. sports fans, with seemingly half the population glued to their TV sets watching the Super Bowl. As reported in last week's predictions, the planetary setup was quite suitable for a mesmerizing entertainment event, with Venus, the planet of entertainment, exactly conjunct Neptune, the planet of hypnosis. Note that the chart of the game has Jupiter, planet of judgment, backwards in the first house, and Mercury, planet of decisions, is also backwards, indicating the potential for mistakes by those who have to make decisions. The game was certainly suspenseful and entertaining, with some amazing plays. And certainly at the end, that decision to throw instead of run arguably is what cost the Seahawks the game. Over in the epidemics department, a month ago, or a few months ago, I predicted it would be a bad winter for the flu in the United States, based on the planetary pattern of Uranus and Ketu conjunct in the USA 4th house, with Saturn having entered the USA chart's 12th house. But now, the Uranian quality of the unexpected has brought us the latest supposed pandemic, with accompanying hysteria, manifesting this Uranus Ketu energy pattern. A measles outbreak. What started out as a couple of dozen cases originating from Disneyland in California has spread to 11 other states, including Arizona, even threatening the Super Bowl. Health officials in Arizona got focused on the Phoenix Stadium as a potential hotbed of infection. Some were even calling for unvaccinated people to be banned from the game. Catching up on some Mercury retrograde events from last week, Mercury is the planet of communication, business, and travel. Last week, fears of a massive blizzard slamming into the U.S. Northeast caused the cancellation of thousands of airline flights and shut down mass transit in the whole region. There was a blizzard, all right, but mostly it was just little old Massachusetts that got slammed. By the way, Mercury is also the planet of learning. Hundreds of schools were shut. When Mercury is retrograde, communications suffer. Last Tuesday, Facebook, along with its subsidiary, Instagram, suffered a global outage. Mercury is the planet of making rational choices. When it is backwards in the zodiac, Mercury retrograde can result in unexpected consequences. Here's the chart of last Sunday's elections in Greece. The Greek election has delivered on that theory of Mercury retrograde. Something nobody saw coming. The new Greek premier, Alexis Tsipras, has threatened that Greece could in fact be now a veto vote against any new sanctions against Russia, effectively removing the European Union's main weapon against Putin's continued support of the Ukraine separatists. As the week continued, Venus was getting closer and closer to Neptune, with the exact conjunction happening today, Sunday, February 1st. Venus is the planet of value, of prices, and therefore a main significator of financial markets. Neptune is the planet of dreams, which on the negative side signifies illusion, doubt, and suspicion. The square aspect from Saturn puts additional pressure on Venus's signification of value. Meanwhile, Mercury, the planet of business, still retrograde, and Jupiter, planet of prosperity and optimism, also retrograde. Last week, markets were uncertain over just what lies ahead now that the most indebted member of the European Union, Greece, has elected a party committed to reneging on at least some of that debt. The New York Stock Exchange had its worst week in months, worst overall month in a year. Lastly, let's take a look at spring training season for the Republicans, who are jockeying for position in the now underway horse race for the GOP presidential nominee for 2016. The astrological angle comes from the chart of the United States, where the fourth house represents opposition to the leader. In our present circumstances, that means the Republicans. Here we find Uranus and Ketu now in near exact conjunction. The conjunction of Uranus, planet of rebellion and sudden unexpected events, plus Ketu, signifier of past karma, the unseen world, and dematerialization. It's a combination sure to give crisis and chaos, and it continues all through 2015. So get your popcorn out. This should be interesting. The Repubs and their major donors, the Koch brothers, have been holding meetings where everyone who wants to audition for the part gets to hold forth and show their conservative bona fides. Last week, after teasing us with his thoughts of running again, Mitt Romney had second thoughts and withdrew himself from the race. I guess Mercury retrograde got to him. Meanwhile, other Repubs, mostly the usual suspects, have volunteered for the exalted post of leader of the free world. And where does it all end up? All I can say is that, judging from the transits in the fourth house of the USA chart, there will be a lot of popcorn consumed in 2015. Well, that'll do it for this week's Review of the Week. You can keep up with daily astrological developments and contribute your own thoughts by following me on Twitter at Astro News Report.